All right, well then, let's see. We are going to do some silicone pours today. At least just one. At least one. Maybe two. What do we got here? Oh, clean up, get some of the silicone out. Draconics. Yeah. I'm going to be doing a parabolica in Phoenix, but I'm going to be experimenting with a hardener instead of just using the usual blended formula that I usually use. So I'm going to be using my softest silicone with a hardener, and I'm going to be shooting for like a 0050 on my recipe, and we'll see just how it comes out. I waffle back and forth on which methodology I like. By the way, here's all my scrap bits of silicone. I have no idea what to do with this. I could, in theory, I could shred this and use it for making block molds or something like that. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in here. Just all kinds of colors and stuff. Anyway. All right. So. Let's see. These are the ones we're not using. Yeah, this is going to be kind of Phoenix colors, which is going to be orange, yellow, and white. I have, oh man, how do I put this? I've forgotten how to make the original pour style on that. I've forgotten how to do it. Or another way of putting it is the way that I do it doesn't match the pictures anymore. And so I'm trying to go back and figure out how I did it. I've got an idea of what I want to do, but we'll see how it comes out. So right now I'm just cleaning out these cups, just making sure there's nothing in them. This is just isopropyl alcohol. 99%. Can you melt down silicone? No, you cannot. That's one of the things about silicone is it is very stable. It does not melt down at all. It's one of the great things about it is that it's very stable. It doesn't, you can heat it up, you can freeze it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. It just doesn't melt down. And, it's very resistant to chemicals, but that also makes it very difficult to recycle. Okay, so let's get our colors out here. By the way, I am also streaming this on YouTube and Twitter. Yeah, YouTube and Twitter. We'll scooch that out of the way. So these are the colors we're going to be using. We got an orange, a yellow, and a white. So there we go. And by the way, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will get to them as we go along. Now then, B. There we go, 132 grams. There we go. Another 132 grams. And this is just part A and part B of our silicone. There we go. And then we need 66 grams. Go. Oops. Went a little bit over on the hardener, but that's okay. Okay. So we've got our part A, part B, and our hardener in here. Let's see. We just want to give these good mix here. Now, what I have seen some people do, it could be interesting, is to take that whole bunch of scraps that I showed you and just pour a whole bunch of scrap silicone over it, because I always have some scrap silicone. I could just pour a bunch of it over it and end up with this, could end up with this block. I don't know, that could be interesting. If I do a bunch of pours in one day, that might work. Now, I am going to add a bit of accelerator here because with the hardener and this silicone, I have it's about a 4-hour cure time, and I don't want to wait around that long. So I need about 3.4 grams. There we go. And that should cut our cure time and our pot life in half. So about 20 minutes on the pot life and about 2 hours on the cure time. Now then, I want to check our total weight here. What's our total weight? Total weight is 345 divided by 3 is about 115. So, let's see. Somebody's asking, what are we making? We are making silicone sculptures. So I want about 115 grams on that one. And I want about 115 grams on this one. All right, so we're done with our scale. Now this is the point where we add our pigments. And by the way, since this is a tutorial, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will answer them as we go along. But we've got our silicone in here. We added a hardener to it to increase the firmness. And then we also added an accelerator to speed up the curing process. Now this is just the white. So it's it's kind of a pearly white. When I say pearl, it's just like an off white. It's got just a little bit of it's a pearl, you know? If you've ever seen a pearl, it's got that, there's a creaminess to the color. All right, so now let's grab our yellow here. Oops, I don't like this stick. This is kind of a lemony yellow that has a white undertone to it. And since we've already mixed all of our part A and B and everything, all we're doing at this point is just incorporating the pigment in there. We're not worried about trying to mix a real heavy mix or anything. And then our last color is this orange. Now these lighter colors, we often have to go a little bit heavier on the pigments because they end up being a little bit translucent. So we really want to bump up the saturation on them. Hey, let's see. There's somebody on YouTube asking about a more in-depth explanation about the vacuum chamber. We'll do that here in just a moment, because we're getting ready to do that. We're getting ready to drop these into the vacuum chamber. By the way, if you have any questions, this would be a really good time to ask them, because when this goes into the vacuum chamber, there's not going to be a whole lot to show you, because vacuuming is going to be over there. Anyway. Okay, vacuum chamber. Happy in a Box asking, what are we using the silicone to make? We are making silicone sculptures. Pickaxe P is asking, can I show the component names? Yeah, give me just a second. I will show you the brand of silicone here in just a second. I'll actually show you two different kinds. All right, Hive on YouTube is asking about the vacuum chamber. And actually, maybe I can do this in a way over here where everybody can kind of see it, but maybe a little bit more specifically so that Hive can see it. All right, this will work. Okay, so this is the vacuum chamber. This is the vacuum gauge. These are our valves here. Give me a second. And I'm going to turn off the vacuum pump. Okay. Just turn off the vacuum pump because it's loud, and we've pretty much reached the point where we've pulled all the vacuum on this that we can. Okay, so there are two vacuum valves on here, or two valves, I should say. There is the vacuum chamber itself. There is a lid. There is a fitting here that runs through it. And then there is a hose, which this connects to my vacuum pump. And then we have our valves here. Now there is one valve that comes out here and connects to nothing. This is what will allow us to equalize the pressure to the atmosphere, to what we breathe. So, normal atmospheric pressure. This valve allows us to pull the air out through the vacuum hose and into the vacuum chamber. I'm sorry, into the vacuum pump. So here are the rules. And they're fairly simple. One, the vacuum, this valve should always be closed unless the vacuum pump is on and pulling air. Just follow that rule. If the vacuum pump is not on, this valve has to be closed. Now this valve you can open and close all you want. Doesn't really matter. But this valve should only be open if the vacuum pump is on. If you open this and there's a vacuum in here like it is right now, then if we open that, then there's a vacuum that's going to travel through this hose, and then it's going to pull the oil out of the vacuum pump and into our vacuum chamber, because there's going to be air pressure differential, and it's going to want to pull all the oil out of the pump and shove it into our vacuum chamber. But if the vacuum pump is on, then we are creating a vacuum on this side, and then we're going to be safe. So as long as the vacuum pump is off, this should always be closed. Once you turn the vacuum pump on, then you can open this valve. This valve, which is connected to nothing, this is just actually an air filter. You can open and close this valve all you want. All this is going to do is get rid of, release your vacuum, and they'll vent it to air, and you'll lose your vacuum. And we're almost done here. We still got a few more bubbles coming up on the orange here. But like right now, I want to make sure that my vacuum is still good. So before I open this, I'm going to turn on my vacuum pump. Now I can open it. And I don't know if you can hear the vacuum pump or not, but you can hear a little bit of a difference in tone over time. It gets quieter. And that tells you that it's reached its maximum vacuum. All right, let's get this back over here. All right, cameras are in the appropriate places. We all good? Yep. Okay. Somebody's asking, why do we vacuum? When we're mixing our silicone, we are actually introducing air into it. It's kind of like mixing it, and it's kind of like a meringue. The silicone is very thick, very viscous, and so it traps air into the silicone. And so by vacuuming it, we pull all that air out. And when we pull that air out, we create a solid mass that has no air in it. And then basically that way, when we pour it into our mold, we know that our silicone is not going to have any bubbles in it at all. Now, somebody is asking about the kind of silicone. Now, I'm going to show you one of them. I'll show you the other one here in a minute. Let's keep that off to the side. One of the brands is called Smooth-On. This one's EcoFlex 0050. This is a fairly soft silicone, but yeah, this is one of the brands you can use, Smooth-On, EcoFlex 0050, and I'll show you another one here in just a minute, but I want to get this poured. All right, so we have our white, and I want to do this here. And using that hardener kind of thickens up this silicone a bit. So we should get some good marbling out of this. All right. I'll give you a shot. That's what it looks like in the cup. Now then, let's get our mold in place. And I'm going to bring this down here a little bit. You guys can see that. And I'll pull that back a bit. How are you guys doing? Okay. Now let's get her done here. And we're going to try to do this all in one smooth motion here. And I know it looks like there's only yellow coming out, but I know there's orange coming out underneath that yellow. We do it. We probably go just a little bit more, just a scooch more. There we go. Now I got some extra here, so I'm gonna make some squishies. There we go. There we go. If I can get just a little bit more, that would be nice. Get a little bit more in there. There we go. All right, Hive, did that make a little bit more sense on the vacuum chamber? Let me know in the chat. Now then, the other brand of silicone that I use is this is Platsil Gel 0020. This is the other one I'm using. And I'm using this one along with a hardener, which is from the same brand as Platsil Part H. Part H hardener. There we go. Okay. And by the way, if you want to learn how to do this yourself, I do have a YouTube channel, first off, where I have all kinds of videos on the pouring process, the mold making process, on cure inhibition, how to make, I don't know if I have anything about masters or not in there yet. How are we doing there? There we go. Okay. I've got tons and tons of videos on YouTube. I'm also working on a course that you can get access to if you are a patron on Patreon. So there's a link in my bio, Linktree. Go hit the Linktree. You can get to everything on there. Just hit my bio on TikTok and you can get to it. Hey, John. Hi, making experiments with silicone, but my mold keeps expanding when filled with silicone, so the final piece is bigger than the original mold. Yeah. You need more layers on your mold. Basically, your mold is ballooning, and you need to, when you're making your glove mold, you either need to add more layers, because my molds are anywhere, they're about 3/16 of an inch thick is kind of what I'm looking for, about 3, 4, 5 millimeters, somewhere between 3 and 5 millimeters thick. Or if you don't want to add more layers, then you need to add a mother mold or a hybrid mold, which a hybrid mold allows you to 3D print a shell, and then you can pour a mold around your master with your hybrid mold around that. Your hybrid mold creates a shell which provides support, and then you can, you've got a 3D printed shell which provides support for your silicone mold, and then it doesn't really matter at that point. But if your mold is ballooning when you're pouring, you need more layers, or you need a mother mold or hybrid mold. Can we see the completed item? Let's see. This one will take about 2 hours to cure. I will pull out. I can show you what that particular model looks like. Let's see here. Keep that off to the side. I can show you what the marbling pattern looks like. Or this is what some of the marbling patterns are looking like. This particular one I'm doing a little bit differently. I poured this one more in the style of this marbling pattern. We should get some more blending rather than hard marbling. But what I'm shooting for is more of a blending instead of a hard marbling. But you can kind of see, you get some really intricate marbling happening. All right, what other questions have you got? Yeah, John, one of the things I'm trying to work on in my course is I'm trying to work on a methodology for making hybrid molds, because there isn't really a good tutorial out there for making hybrid molds yet. So that's something that's going to be in the course. I just posted up my blending section. That was section number 9. Yeah, there are 9 sections of it. I'm about halfway done. But I just posted up section number 9, which is blending silicone. And that goes through my entire process of how I develop my recipes for blending silicones. Because I actually blend my 0020 and an A25 to get different firmnesses. Now today was a little bit different. I was experimenting with using my 0020 with a hardener instead of 0020 with a firmer silicone. And so it's a little bit different process. It's very similar, but it's a little bit different. The hardener can be a little bit more, I don't want to say inconsistent, but I find I can be more consistent if I blend my silicones like a 0020 with a gel 25. By doing it that way, I can be more consistent. But one of the downsides of doing it that way is that sometimes the pot life can get away from us, and we can end up with silicone that cures while we're pouring it. When that happens, we end up with bubbles. You can see those bubbles right in here. And now these aren't just micro bubbles. If we hadn't vacuumed this would just be micro bubbles all throughout here. It would be like a sponge. These are actually air bubbles that are entrapped in the silicone because it was folding as it was getting poured. So you can see the folding patterns here. I think you can see that, right? Can you see that? I think you can see that. And then it folded on itself. You can see some of that folding right there. You can see some of it here. Sorry, I've got two cameras going, so I have to kind of bounce back and forth. But I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying different processes to see what I like, what I don't like. Is there any difference between powder pigments and liquid pigments? Powder pigments can be more problematic in terms of clumping. I do have some videos about dealing with clumping pigment. Let me grab a paper towel here because I do have some pigments, but I want to show you. I don't have my gloves on, and so these get really messy. This is one, and I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can tilt this. If I can tilt this enough, you might be able to see it. Can you see? There's a line right there. There's some settling that's happening here, but there's a line of silicone and then pigment happening down there. But there's a line of the silicone, and there's the pigment down there. Anyway, but if you shake it up, it all mixes in. Anyway, I do have some pigments that are problematic and do cause problems with clumping, and this pink one here was one of those. And by mixing it with a hand blender in silicone fluid, I'm able to get rid of those clumps. I have a couple of blues that I have those problems with as well, clumping. But generally, my other pigments I don't have those problems with. My general mica-based pigments, I don't have that problem with. I do have some other silicone-based pigments that are a little bit thicker. I'll show you one of those, like this. And this is almost like, this feels like wax, what this feels like. But this is one of the nice things about this kind of pigment is that it's already blended with silicone, and so it mixes into your silicone blend very, very nicely, very easily. But dry pigments, the only downside to them is sometimes you can have problems with clumping. That's the only downside. All right, other questions? Anything else? Yeah, John, if you can make a mother mold out of, let's see, you can make it out of plaster. You can make a mother mold out of plaster. That would be an easy way of doing it. You could do it out of an alginate. An alginate would work as well. So yeah. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then I am going to wrap it up and get it out of here. All right, everybody. It's been fun. It's been real. And it's been real fun. Okay, bye. Bye. All right, button. Who's got the button? Hey, Walter Silicone, how you doing? I was about to shut it down, and then I saw you show up. I just shut down my TikTok. I just finished up this pour. Yeah, a little late to the party, but it's what? Let's see, it's what, 2 o'clock here, so that makes it 10 where you are? 10 p.m.? Am I getting my time zones right? Yeah, this was orange, yellow, and white. So this was actually Phoenix colors. These are the colors. Ah, 9 o'clock. Okay. So 7 hours ahead of me. All right. Well, I mean, I was about to wrap it up. But you can go back and watch the stream. So I had a few good questions earlier. There's some questions about why we vacuum. There were some questions about, actually John had a question earlier about his mold expanding. I say his. John had a question about their mold expanding. So we talked a little bit about hybrid molds, mother molds, things like that. Yeah, the yellow is, it's a nice, mellow kind of yellow. It's not an in-your-face, bright yellow. So we will see. Do. I also used, this was also a little bit different experiment. I used my 0020 with hardener. I'm going for, this case, I was going for a 0050. And I want to experiment with 0020 with a hardener. I want to see what the ratios are. I want to see what the viscosity is. I can show you a couple of things. I don't know. I don't have my glasses. How clear this is. Let me zoom this in. There's some subtle differences here, but what I can tell you is that these have the same firmness, or very, very close. Very, very close. This might be slightly firmer, but the purple one here was done with the 0020 and hardener, whereas this one was done with 0020 and A25 blending. So this one, you can tell the difference in the marbling patterns here. If you look very closely, you can see kind of how, especially like along here. See, we get a much finer, much more feathery kind of marbling here than here. The hardener has a different viscosity. The hardener has a much higher viscosity, and so it actually has an impact on the marbling pattern. And that's one of the things I'm experimenting with right now, is trying to get the marbling pattern that I want, trying to control the marbling pattern, and see if there's a reason to use the hardener to get certain marbling patterns, and then using the blending in order to get different marbling patterns. Anyway. But yeah, there is actually a reason for the experiments. Playing with viscosity, playing with trying to learn to control things as much as possible, because that's one of the things I like. I like control. See, a lot of people like that, but then I actually have a lot of people asking how to get that really fine, feathery marbling, and a lot of people just don't know how to get it. And it is kind of the one thing that kind of separates my designs and my marbling from everybody else. Is it can be very feathery. All right, everybody, I'm out. I'm tired. Insomnia is still a thing. And so now I sleep. Bye.